Thank you, everybody, for coming into the last session of the mini conference for Loudoun Small Business Week. We're excited you were all here today. This has been a new adventure for all of us to do this type of an event in cyberspace totally. So hopefully this is a good experience. We will be asking feedback from people after the fact, so please feel free to share. This session is going to be a panel discussion. It's called Pivoting in the Real World. We're going to talk to some actual Loudoun businesses who have had some interesting experiences over the last year or so. And we're also going to maybe take a little peek into their futures and see what they're seeing. Again, my name is Eric Byrd. I'm the manager of the Small Business Development Center here in Loudoun. I would like to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsors, Loudoun County Economic Development Department, and especially the staff from, especially the Virginia Small Business Development Center Network. They've been supporting us in this and helping us set this up. And then, of course, our host organization, George Mason University. We couldn't do these programs without our partners. And a big special thank you to Bill Furster for allowing us to use the et al. Platform for this conference. We're grateful for that. And thank you very much, Bill, for all your hard work in helping us put this event together. It's been a lot of fun this morning, and we've learned a lot. So in this, we got a great conversation here today. We're going to talk to Justin and Tony and Krista about what they've been doing. First off, I want you to notice that their microphones are muted, and that's as we've planned it. So we probably will not unmute the microphones for questions, but you never know. We'll see. While we are speaking, feel free to type in your questions as we go in the chat window. Please make sure that the chat is set to everyone instead of just the specific speaker or the host. That way everybody can see it and I don't miss the question. Deandra's going to be backing me up to make sure I don't totally mess anything up. So make sure that she can see that too. That would be great. Also, we will have a replay available for this session at some point after the fact. We're not 100% sure how we're going to do that yet, but it will be available and everybody will get an email letting them know how to access that. And so with that, let me introduce our guests today. We're extremely excited. Tony Stafford, first off, is the founder and owner of Ford's Fish Shack. He born in Huntington, West Virginia, and after attending engineering school, which I absolutely love, he also went to culinary school at the National Center of Hospitality Study. He opened Ford's Fish Shack in 2010 in Ashburn, and 3 years later, he opened a second location in South Riding, and then the third location in Lansdowne in 2017. In 2017, Tony also was honored as the recipient of the Jim Wordsworth Restaurateur of the Year Award by the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. So we're excited that Tony is here to share his expertise. Krista Woods, also joining us, is the founder of Glove Sticks. Krista was in sales training and management industry for 27 years, and while raising her 3 kids, she was promoted from sales to management pretty quickly. And in 2002, she became self-employed and for 12 years ran her own sales training and team building company where she used her skills as a certified color code instructor. But in 2016, she added an award-winning inventor to her resume when she created a product to eliminate odors caused by bacteria grown common with sports equipment and shoes. Glove Sticks was born, and we're all excited. After winning the Today Show's Next Big Thing with her company, she went on ABC's Shark Tank, where she pitched her product to some of America's toughest investors and closed the deal, not one, but 2 of the sharks. Nothing like pitting those sharks against each other on national television. She's had her company going strong ever since. She's honored to and received over 15 awards over the last 5 years. And she is going to bring us a lot of interesting stories today, I'm sure, because Krista, you always have lots of great stories about working in your business. Finally, we have Justin Dobson, who's a founder and VP of operations for Comf Energy. And Justin has more than 25 years of experience in the heating and air conditioning industry, doing work for residential and commercial clients throughout Northern Virginia. and he developed a passion for solving customers' comfort issues. And I love the way you say that in your bio, Justin, and high energy costs. He recognized the need for a better approach and founded Comf Energy in 2010 to give customers better solutions for their comfort, energy, and indoor air quality needs. He's a graduate of Virginia Tech University, where I happen to know he just was last week. And he played baseball for the Hokies. After college, he played second base for the Ohio Valley Redcoats, which is a minor league baseball team in the Frontier League. And we are excited to have all three of you here today. Thank you three for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's dive into the conversation, shall we? I'm excited and fascinated to hear what you all have to say about the last year. It has been quite a interesting 12 or 13 months that we've been experiencing. And so I kind of want to divide this conversation into sort of three parts. I'd like to talk a little bit about what happened last year and how what happened in your businesses and how you responded. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about what's going on right now, so that people understand maybe the difference between how that year has made a difference. And then hopefully by the end, we'll be able to take a look a little bit at what's going on in the future and what are you seeing coming down the pike that you're trying to get ready from, and maybe talk about some lessons that you have learned this year as well. So the part of the reason that we're excited to have you three here is that you have different businesses. So hopefully we'll learn some interesting things, because of the nature of each of your businesses is a little bit different. So with that, Tony, let's start with you. Okay. So set the Wayback Machine, March 2020. What was the first impact once we recognized that this was an actual pandemic? What was the first thing that was a big impact on your business?
Well, the big thing for us, and first of all, let me thank you for letting me come on here and tell my story, but it was the governor coming on and saying basically that all restaurants were going to have to shut down inside dining. And at that point, 98% of my business came from inside the four walls. So I was down 98% starting that first day. So that was the big impact for us. We couldn't switch to e-commerce because we had no e-commerce. We couldn't switch to virtual because we had no virtual. So that was the big impact for us.
And so what did you do immediately to try to respond to that? Like how on earth did you approach that?
Well, that night when the governor made that decision, that announcement, I had a manager meeting at 10 o'clock on a call with all my managers, and I had 19 of them at that time. And I said, listen, guys, this is something we've all never been through. And after 27 years of being in this business, I thought I'd seen everything. And this was definitely one thing that I'd never seen before. So I said, I'm just as scared. And honestly, I shed some tears on that call with my staff, and I still get emotional about it. And it was tough. And I said, we're going to have to furlough 180 employees, which is about what we had at that time, because I didn't have any work. There was no reason for them to come into work and stand around and look at each other. So it was a tough time. And so we said that we're going to bring everyone back. We're going to fight for every job. And so we had calls with all the employees, and a lot of them, didn't have anything to turn to, any support. So, we had to, get out there and let people know that we were still open. We were still doing takeout. We were still doing curbside, and really start pushing that.
So it sounds like communicating with your people really was the first thing that you jumped in immediately to do. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if everyone remembers, the president came on and said, if we do this for 6 weeks, by Easter, we'll be able to come out of this and be back to work. And the last thing I wanted to do is just get rid of people and not have anyone come Easter to serve those Easter dinners. So I wanted to make sure we put our arms around those staff members, because a lot of them had been with us for 8 or 10 years. And a lot of them, were working 2 jobs, and both of the jobs were restaurants. So they were not only losing the job that I had for them or supplied for them, but also the job probably in the evenings or in the mornings, opposite of whatever they work here. So, it was hard, but we wanted to make sure that we showed that support, and we promised them. A lot of them had health insurance. We had a couple that were pregnant at the time and needed that health insurance to for their child, for their pregnancy. So we promised them we'd keep their health insurance for them, and we kept that promise. So, but the main thing was just communication for us.
That's excellent. So Krista, completely different kind of business with glove sticks, right? Well, what was the most immediate impact on what you were doing?
So again, thanks for having me. And Tony, I have mad respect for you and what you've done, not only with your stores, your employees, but also for the whole restaurant industry in Loudoun County. I've many friends in the industry and you make such a huge impact. So I just would like to say that first off. As far as for me, I had independent contractors. So my business is a lot different than Tony's. And I was grateful I didn't have to necessarily lay off employees, but I did have contractors that I had to lay off. About 80% of my business, I actually sell a lot to sports teams, athletes. So anybody who plays any sort of sport in elementary, middle, high school, 80% of my business was that, and college, was that sort of sale. So immediately when all sports shut down, so I immediately felt that impact as well. And I would say for the first, month or 6 weeks, we were having a lot of fun at home. My kids were home from college. They couldn't go back. And I was like, oh, I'm a very optimistic person. I was like, oh, it's going to be over in a few weeks. It's good. It's going to be over in a few weeks. And then I realized even bigger impact when Amazon stopped selling a lot of products because they were focusing on toilet paper, wipes, masks. So a lot of our products were taken off. A lot of people don't know that they did that, that was a really difficult time because about 70% of my business comes from Amazon. So when they shut down my listing, they wouldn't let us send more inventory in. Not only were my sales impacted enough, but then my other customers had no place to buy the product where they normally thought to buy it. So getting that word out was really difficult as well. But
so that's that. I'm really glad you said that, because that's very interesting, because one of the big pushes has been, okay, well, all the physical things are shut down. So everybody go online. And you were already online.
Yep.
And because of the nature of what you were doing, you sort of got shifted into a second or third tier status, and you couldn't sell online.
Yeah, so like 20% of my customers are wholesale. So I only have 20% retailers. I actually run my business a little different because I don't focus on big retailers. I focus on direct to consumer. So Amazon, my website are, 80% of my business. And out of that 80%, Amazon is 70% of it, because people just find it easier to shop on Amazon. It's just what they do, right? So I may run ads to my website, but then people will Google the product and then buy it on Amazon. 2 days Prime, credit cards already stored. It's just the way people shop nowadays. So if you're not on Amazon with e-commerce business, you pretty much don't have a business. So everybody has to be on Amazon. And when Amazon impacted all those small businesses by doing that, it was a huge blow. I mean, we're just now getting back up on Amazon. We were right back up starting in June and July. So things started getting better. Things started opening up a little. And that's when I noticed the huge change. And my Amazon started growing little by little, but they would cap what you could send in. So if I normally sold 2,000 units a month on Amazon, I would send in 5,000 units for 2.5 months of inventory, and they would only let me send in 300. I mean, it was so capped because their warehouses were making sure they had enough room for toilet papers and the wipes and the antibacterial and all that. So that was a very, very big challenge. And I had to find new ways to bring in business in June and July because my spring was finished and I had to restart everything and totally rethink how I do business.
So once you recognized this was going to drag out longer than a few weeks and you had some nice family time, what was your first indicator that you were gonna, like, what did you do next? How did you try to figure out what to do then to even?
So once I realized this wasn't going to be over soon and that this was going to be going on for a long time, I had reached out. One of the things, I never wanted to devalue my product. So I don't do like, these larger sales. So they have like these Good Morning America sales, everything's half price and this and that, right? And I don't want to devalue who I am. I'm a high quality product. I'm not a Walmart product. That's not who I am. Everything is non-toxic, chemical free, high top quality. And people pay for that. People pay for that in the value. But what I did do was start reaching out to all these companies that had approached me before, wanting to buy my product at a deep discount and then sell it to consumers. And at that point, it was June, and I was like, I think I have to do this. I have no choice. I need income coming in. I can't afford to pay for my warehousing and my shipping and just pay for all this storage that I have without an income. So in June, I actually agreed to do a Good Morning America sale. And with those sales, everything's 50% off, right? So they have all these things. It's a real deal. Like, so for anyone who likes to shop, you should go on, because those things are at a real discount, no joke. But we take a huge hit. So my top line, I could get the cash in, which is what I needed, because that's what I was really starting to feel 3-4 months in, was my cash was depleting. So I got to sell, $100,000 worth of product in one day. And even though my net, I didn't actually make money from it, but I got the cash in because I have to pay inventory. I'd already paid for all my 20,000 units that were sitting in my warehouse, were already paid for. So I needed that cash just to run my business. And then I did the same thing in July with like a hockey subscription company. So they sold 5,000 units and put them all in their subscription services. So I started reaching out to those type of things where, people have those boxes that they get every month, and it's a deep discount. It's not necessarily profitable for the business, but it gave me the cash up front. And then I was able to, see, I told you I could talk a lot. But just going forward, so not to ask this. So like this was June and July. And then in August, September, I had cash, and I was able to reinvest back into my business, and I upgraded my website. I got better, more expensive marketing people. I was able to do all that stuff. And then my fourth quarter was actually the best fourth quarter I've ever had.
Interesting.
So
it really was a situation where getting creative and doing what you needed to do to get the cash in the door kept you afloat to be able to explore other options and figure out what to do next. Is that accurate?
Yes. And I don't run my business necessarily. I don't run my business on a debt business. So I'm a cash-based business. I know it's 50-50 and everybody does it different. So I don't do what I can't afford. But one of the things that I did in September was I was super, even though I was like, I don't know if I can afford it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, but I had this little bit of cash, and I was like, okay, now I need to reinvest again and put it back in the business to upgrade all these things, to get better at technology, to get better at my marketing skills, to broaden my base customer, not just from the athlete, but also from the people who wear orthotics, just regular parents who go to the gym. People were using them in laundry baskets, in drawers, and trash cans. Like, people were being so creative. So I learned from my customer, and then I was able to broaden my market base. So I'm no longer 80% athlete. I'm now probably 60%, but the rest wear work shoes. I mean, your chefs wear shoes all day long. Your workers who go in hot attics and that are hot, they sweat in their shoes. They all have the same problem. So I learned to broaden my market base, that I was not only focusing on one market, but I expanded to every market, was another thing. So.
Oh, that's interesting. So Tony's customers had to come to him basically when we started this. Krista had to get creative in figuring out how to get her products in front of people. Justin, what about your business? Well, you go to your customers, correct?
Yeah, so thank you as well for having me on. I appreciate it. And what's unique about this is it's interesting to see the problems and challenges that everybody's had in the different types of businesses. So it's kind of cool to hear. So thank you guys for your stories too. But yeah, so our company had been chugging along and growing and growing and growing. And we got up to, I don't know, about 55 employees. And then we were very fortunate. One of the things that we did was expand our services into basement waterproofing, mold remediation, and radon prevention too. And that was in the fall of 2019. So what helped us is when basically the country got shut down, we were deemed essential. So fortunately, because we were at that time, 6 months prior to this, we probably would not have been an essential company. But because you can't have people living in a house that has mold or radon or water and things like that, we were able to operate. And what was interesting is, I'm very fortunate to have two business partners, and we would come into the office every day, and I'm trying to figure out how to pivot and what do we do, while one of them sat there and watched the news all day long to find out, okay, what's going to happen, and how can we get help, and what should we be doing. But I think the most important thing, that one of the things that Tony said, was communicating with the employees to let them know that we were a team, we're in this together, we're going to be helping them throughout. We always were there to be able to provide for them, from, like you said, the health insurance issue, all those things we kept. And we're fortunate to be able to do so, because I know there was a lot of people out there that didn't. So it was interesting, from coming in the very next day to sitting at my desk where I'm sitting now and going, hey, did we not pay the phone bill? What happened? The phone stopped ringing, And then when the only time the phone rang was you'd pick it up and they said, hey, I bought something from you and you guys are coming in 2 or 3 weeks to install it. And let's just hold off. So it was like, it wasn't a slow decline. It was put the brakes on now. So it was unique. It was interesting. Hopefully we never go through something like that again, for goodness sake.
That's fascinating. The couple of things that I heard that was across all three is that the immediacy of the drop for everybody.
Oh yeah.
And that there was this sort of ripple effect that it impacted like all your people.
Oh yeah.
Like naturally, if there's nothing to do, like then they're got to be sitting around going, well, what do I do? So it's interesting to me that you all three jumped on that. Okay, here I'm going to be communicating with people, and here's what's going on, and here's the way we're going to do it, and I think that's really important. So kind of any of the three of you, did you do something in those kind of early stages that you feel was really effective, or kind of a way to approach solving the problem? Because nobody knew what an answer. There was no, oh, well, this is the solution to that. I mean, we talked to a lot of people at the SBDC, and everybody was like looking at everybody else going, what do we do? So, but were there things that you tried that you found were really successful, Justin?
Yeah, so I'll answer that real quickly. Hopefully really quickly, because I like to talk too, Krista. But yes. So, well, first of all, we the three business partners together, we sat down and go, what the heck do we do? How are we going to handle this? What are we going to do? And we took a gamble. One of the things that we did was we actually started spending more money on marketing than we ever had, which turned out to be a huge payout, because what in turn then happened was a little bit of luck from Mother Nature, because it got to be, oh gosh, 95 degrees for 20 some days straight. And then it rained for a month. So we fix hot houses and we fix wet basements. So it paid off, because then when we started to get to the situation in the service world right now, which is the challenge, is we've got too much work and not enough people, is that it paid off, right? And so making that change, the other thing that we did is we found that one of the products that we used for mold, to kill mold, also killed viruses as well. So our salespeople started going out and fogging and disinfecting houses and businesses, and something to literally give them something to do. It was not going to be making any money for us. It was just, hey, go fog these people's house. I mean, it was just to give your employees something to do, so they didn't go and leave you because like Tony said, okay, well, this is only going to happen for 6 weeks. We need these people when this is over, right? So interesting change and how we kind of pivoted a little bit.
That is interesting. So both you and Krista have shared that more marketing, kind of upping your marketing game was key. Tony, was that your experience too?
Yeah, that was an interesting time for us because again, we were trying all new things, family meals, takeout, all those things, and before they were really small part of our daily sales. And one of the things that I saw was up until that point, social media was we were all weaning off social media, whether through exhaustion or just being tired of the Facebook and the Instagram and the tweeting and things like that. So I really felt like that was our time or my time to, unfortunately, or not fortunately, but I was never comfortable kind of standing in the limelight. So I had to get comfortable. And if anyone ever looked at my Facebook post or Facebook page before COVID, it was very bare. I never really used it at all. Never really made any announcements on there through there. We all just posted everything through the Ford's Fish Shack or the Ford's on the Road pages and stuff. But I made the conscious decision to get out in front of the camera, get out in front of the social media and start posting and start just telling our stories in front of people. And people really like that. They like to hear from me. They like to hear from the owners of the company. They like to hear what we were going through and what we were trying. So I really felt like, and the best part was that was free. It was just, required my time and kind of dedication to doing those things. And now it's started a little normalcy that we kind of do it on a weekly, daily basis of getting that message out through my social media post.
So that's interesting. And I have to say, I did notice a significant change in seeing you, particularly on your social media, which I agree. It's very interesting. Did Justin, did you see something similar? Did you start sharing more of what you were doing, or was it more of a traditional marketing? Hey, here's how to get something from us.
A large part of our marketing is internet based, but we started. I did the same thing. As opposed to Tony, I'm probably too comfortable being in front of a camera and talking. But I went to that more often. Earlier you mentioned our band. I've got a little tripod thing that we do recordings with, and I brought it into the office and set it on my desk and said, here's things that we can do for you. People didn't know that we offered this, fogging and disinfecting of the indoor air for people. So I had to let them know somehow. And like Tony said, social media was free, so it didn't cost anything. So we did spend more money. Probably went up to almost 2% more marketing costs, which is a little bit for us. But at the same time, I was spending more time. Well, first of all, I wasn't doing anything, right? I'm sitting in the office without the phone ringing. So I'm like, hell, let's make a video of this and let's talk about this and let's talk about that. So yeah, that was one of the things we did was use social media and get online and tell our story.
That's interesting. So, and Krista, you already shared you were trying to get out to different people. Yep. Doing the similar thing, right? That Justin just described. It's, hey, by the way, this thing could be used for other stuff that we've never told you about before. So was that part of your outreach as well?
I mean, one day I remember sitting in my office, like this office, and looking at my computer, my hands in my head. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I have no idea. The people I had were advertising currently, but my ads were actually negative. So just as an example, if I spent 100, I'd get $50 in sales or whatever. So I was like, well, what's the point of this? What's the point of that? And at one point I was like, I don't even know what to do. So I actually remember going on, sitting there and reading every review. I probably have thousands between Amazon and my website. And I went and wrote down anything different in a review that I saw. So it was like, oh, how this person used it, or how that person, anything that stood out as not my lacrosse player, my soccer player, my baseball player, my football player, right? And that's how I proceeded to move forward and get these different ideas for different marketing to different people. Was just sitting there one day with my hands in my head going, I don't know what to do. Let me try it. Let me just see, because you just don't know. You just have to, it's kind of like a guess. And everything is a risk with a small business. I don't think there's a single entrepreneur or small business owner out there that doesn't make a million decisions and 50% of them are wrong. So you just have to keep doing them until eventually the other 50% are going to be right? And then you go, okay, that didn't work. Let me try this. And that's what I kind of spent the summer doing. It was like, okay, well, that was stupid. Let me try something else, or let me try. And then when I reached out to those companies who could buy thousands of units at a super discounted price, I was never willing to do that before. And when I reached out to them, like, it was like my plea personally for like, I need cash. I need to fix this. I'm either going to let my business die or I have to put my big girl panties on and try to figure out a way to do it. So that's kind of what I spent the summer doing. And I had to make decisions for my business that maybe I wouldn't have normally done. Like these wholesale things, like these major discounted things. I would never have done that in the 5.5 years I've been in business. That's just not me. I don't want to sell like that. But I had to. And I learned, I can actually do both. Why can't I do my direct to consumer and do things like this to gain thousands more customers in a day, right? So
nothing like, could we call that maybe forced creativity?
Yes.
For all three of you. It's like, okay, it's the cliff. Do we jump off or do we get creative, right? So, well, Krista, that also brings up, now let's kind of shift to like, well, what's happening now in the present? So all of those things you described, what did you have to shift in your operation to be able to make all that happen? I mean, obviously you identified different places to sell, but has that rippled through the operation at all?
Hey, can I interrupt real quick? Because I want to go back to something that Krista said. And I apologize for doing so.
No, go ahead.
I think the two biggest things that I've learned coming out of this were don't ever quit and don't be afraid to fail. I mean, that's it right there.
And it sounds so cliche, right? Like,
it does.
Even like, honestly, the pivoting word drives me insane. I'm like,
yep.
It's so cliche. I hate the word pivot. I can't stand it. Oh, sorry. Yep. I dislike the word. But in reality, it's exactly what it is, right? You can't just say pivot, you actually have to do it. And it's the same thing with anything. And it all sounds cliche. It's like what you hear in every coaching or business class. Oh, don't quit, keep fighting, never give up. But in reality, that's all that it is. It's all that it is. I had zero zip idea of what the heck I was doing 6 years ago. Like, no clue, never invent. I think that's what people, need to know about my story. Like, I've never invented anything. I've never had an e-commerce business. I had zero skills in anything. I never even took a business class. I never went to college. Like, all these things that were against me. And at 42, I literally took on a brand new career because I had an idea. And I invested my own personal money. Like, these are huge risks that you have, but because of that, I've now done so many things in my life that I never thought I could do. And now I've gone through a pandemic. Well, almost, and I think that's the key to any business, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a product-based business, whether it's a people-based business, the key is to just push forward and actually do it. And you don't even have to know what you're doing.
Let's go there and explore that a little bit, because I like this. I like where we're going with this, right? So Justin, so you said don't give up, and Krista, you're saying don't give up. Tony, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you stay strong with your brand, strong with what built you or have gotten you where you're at, you don't lose that. And that's what I used to tell my staff and still tell them is, we sell an 8-ounce chicken breast on our chicken sandwich. And I could have went to a 6-ounce or a 7-ounce, or I could have went to a frozen this product or a frozen that product. And I refuse to do that. And, whatever's gotten us where we're at, yes, the pandemic lasted a lot longer and is lasting a lot longer, and it's rolling into something even more troubling with the workforce now. But
Yep.
don't lose sight of what got you where you're at, and know that what got you where you're at is what's going to get you out of where you're at right now. And that's the most important thing as a small business owner. As much as you want to be scared and kind of pull your head back like a turtle. I mean, there were days that I know that when I got up, I didn't want to get out of bed because, I was scared just like every other person. And this pandemic and what we went through as a small business owner, one of the things I really had to keep front and center was, yes, it was affecting my business and affecting the ability to hire and pay my employees. But all of our employees were also going through personal issues at home with having to homeschool and sick parents and sick grandparents. And so it touched everyone. There's not a person in this whole state, country, or world that this didn't affect or is not affecting. So, small business owners have to balance that, but don't lose sight of what got you where you're at.
So how did you keep going? So I'm going to guess that all three of you had those moments where it was like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I'm just going to stay under the blanket this morning.
Still do.
Yeah.
So what
That's part of
what
being
happens
a business.
at that moment? Like
Because
that's part.
honestly, there's still that feeling. I'm not sure that ever goes away.
No.
Because you're always learning to overcome, adapt, take risks. And sometimes you're mentally exhausted. And you get to the point you're like, I'm just tired of fighting. You just it feels like there's always a fight. And all of our industries are different, but in that way, we're all the same. And I think that's super important for people to understand. Like we even still have those feelings. Yep. But what I want, even last year, going forward, it was like, I don't know what is going on or what's next or whatever, but I can either, some days I would go, I don't feel like doing it today. I'm not doing it today. I'm not in the zone. And then I'd have to force myself to get in the zone. So it was like up here. It was like, yeah. Okay, so who are you? Are you the type of person that's just going to let it go? All your hard work, everything that you've done? Are you the type of person that is going to refocus and reset and be creative again? Because I had to do it before. And I think that's when tough times happen like that, you really just have to look in the mirror. And then I also was like, thank God I'm not Tony. No offense, Tony, but I was like, I don't have employees. I literally was like, I don't have to hear those stories of people with employees that are crying or upset or losing their health insurance. That and having to deal with how do I keep my business alive? So I also learned to be very grateful for the business that I'm in, and for what I was going through. Instead of feeling sorry for myself, I was like, okay, so many people have it harder than me. I just have to get through these next few months.
So a mindset. So Justin, what gets you when those mornings that you don't want to do it? How do you think through that?
Accountability. You got your employees are counting on you. I mean, you can't just give up. You give up, it's not just you that it's going to fail. You're going to fail so many other people that work for you. That's the key. I mean, think we can get around about this, but it's dead serious. If you're an entrepreneur and you think, oh man, this is awesome. I got this, wait a day, it'll change. And you're like, why am I doing this? And then the next day you're like, oh, I got this covered. Okay, we're good now. And then, 10 minutes later, something else happens. You're like, geez, what the hell am I doing wrong? I shouldn't be doing this, but you just can't just stop doing it. I mean, you've got all these people that rely on you and their families and their kids, and they have bills to pay and food to buy. And so you can't just give up. I mean, I got to tell you, you said in my bio, one of the greatest blessings I ever had was playing baseball, because it's something that you succeed 30% of the time and you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. True. Yeah. I mean, I think as a small business owner, you put your employees first, 99%, 100% of the time. It's never about me. It's not about me. Yes, I may get the accolades. I may get invited to the White House and I have all those great things, but I'm there because of my employees. And as a small business owner, you can't lose sight of that. And I wasn't going to refuse. I wasn't going to fail because of some flu, not to generalize it, but some flu was going to cause me to do this. I'd worked too hard to get where I was, and I had these employees that were dependent on me. And if I let them down, where were they going to end up? So, I had that envelope in the safe, which we all should have now, that says, okay, if it gets bad, how do we start getting cash? Because as Krista said, cash is king. And, I'm going to run this thing as far as I can. And I've got that envelope in the safe now that says, this is what happens. If this happens, this is how we survive.
So do you think a kind of along, because again, Krista, you're right, that like all those things sound so cliche, but yet they are so true. Do you think that it's possible to truly understand those things until you've gone through them? Like this idea of what does a true commitment mean? Or do you decide at the beginning, oh, this is going to be easy? Like Justin, you like, oh yeah, I've got this. I know exactly what to do. I got all the theories down and I got a plan and it's all good. Yep. Right? What do you think?
Personally, for me, I had no clue how hard it was. My business prior was like so low maintenance. I worked on referral basis. I did something I absolutely loved. And I was naturally good at it. I love team building. I love people. I love speaking. And I really didn't have I didn't have to carry inventory or much cost, because when someone wanted, 10 employees at team building, I ordered material for 10 employees. They were paying me, I was ordering. So it was a totally different business than having something like I'm doing now. But I didn't realize what these small business owners and entrepreneurs went through, even though I was one prior. It's the business model is so different when you carry these inventories, expenses, employees, things like that. The pressure is so much greater and grand that I didn't realize prior to being 42 years old that I was even capable of doing something like this, but B, how many mistakes I was going to make and how good at making mistakes you get. So I didn't even realize okay, and how good at overcoming and learning from them. And that is so key. The first year in business, it was or 2 years, it was okay, how do I wait? That was terrible choice, Krista. So how do I fix that? So next time I don't do that. And then I get better and better. And that's why every year I've had growth year over year. It's consistent growth. It's.
Oh, I think we got a little hiccup.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
All right, well, she'll come back. So shift to Justin.
What's the... So
do you agree? Is that it's actually what I'm
there we go.
Sorry, Kristen, we lost you for a second. So, is there a great deal of satisfaction in overcoming these problems for you three? Is that part of the challenge? Is that
actually, I'll tell you, so, prior to Krista, we all had jobs prior to doing what we were doing. I was making a very good salary and working for a family business and everything like that. And I think one of the things as an entrepreneur, there's a line that I always use is entrepreneurs are people that leave a very good paying job for the opportunity to make more money way down the line, right? So it's, for me, when I first started, I'm like, oh, I've got this great idea, right? And I don't think anybody's really doing this. So let me try this. And I'm willing to take that opportunity to do so. And you think, okay, well, the best thing that's ever going to come out of this is I'm gonna make a lot of money and have all the time in the world for myself to do whatever the heck I want. And Krista and Tony are laughing their asses off, but you think that, but honestly, some of the most rewarding things come out of watching your employees buy their first house or have kids or get married or buy a car that they've always wanted to. That's far more rewarding than honestly the time that we have sometimes, or getting to go to the White House, like Tony said. Yeah, we get to do those things, but it's much more rewarding to watch your employees succeed, for sure.
Wait, hold on. You went to the White House too?
No.
Oh, I'm like, what the heck?
yet?
No, I said like Tony said.
He's saying yet. Eventually you'll all get there, right?
Yeah, one of these days.
There you go. So, well, let's shift. We got a few minutes left, and I'm not seeing many questions coming up in the chat yet. So if you guys, the audience, if you have some questions, feel free, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll try to work them in here in the last few minutes. But I do want to spend a couple of minutes, and some of the chat here, like this is all very inspiring. And so I want to thank you all for, sharing this. I think that as my staff at the SBDC knows, I'm real big on authenticity, right? And I think that all of you expressed communicating as this thing hit in a very authentic way. And I think that's very powerful. But let's look at, so we've learned things. The world has changed. Maybe we don't know how. Well, Tony, what are you seeing moving forward? Like, do you think some of these changes that we've been through are going to be permanent? And if so, how are you thinking through that? I mean, I know we don't know yet, but what are you thinking about that?
Absolutely. I think that restaurants are going to do a big change. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that, but I think even the restaurants that you see in the next 12 to 24 months are not what you're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that restaurants are notoriously been high in labor, a lot of touch points, which are, the touch point thing, obviously you can't ship, a fresh salmon dinner or a fresh lobster roll to someone's house and let them consume it there. But we're getting better at that to pick up, but you still have to come in. But the labor piece, as we get out of the pandemic, the restaurant industry shed over a million jobs, the first week of the pandemic. And a lot of those people had to leave and go get other work, go into other lines of work. So now as we start to ramp up, it's great that we're coming out of this. We're seeing, the light at the end of the tunnel, but now as every industry is seeing and the costs are going up and it's becoming harder and harder to run our businesses without the people. So you're going to see a lot of restaurants try to bring technology into it, which was what we've done. E-commerce is going to play a big part of that. E-commerce was single digits in all restaurants until this, and now it's double digits. I get 30% of all my orders on a weekly basis come in through online ordering. And I love that. Honestly, people used to call on the telephone and call the hostess and the hostess would take the order. I don't like the telephones ringing anymore because I got to have someone there to answer it. So I'd rather you go online. And this week, just to give myself a plug or give the restaurant a plug, we're doing 15% off if you do your first online order through Ford's Fish Shack. And because we're trying to get people used to ordering their food online. And you're going to see a lot more of that. Those QRs that everyone's seeing when they go to a restaurant and scanning because we can't wipe down menus or can't use paper menus. That's not going away because not only do we not have to pay for printing anymore, but we can change pricing. And pricing, as everyone on this panel and probably everyone listening, pricing for our raw goods is going up exponentially on a daily basis. And if we can't hold prices for more than a couple of days anymore, and that's scary. I used to be able to buy lobster or salmon or crab or any of those things and lock in 2-3 weeks at a time pricing. I can't do that anymore. And so the QR codes with the ability to use technology can change those prices. So you're going to see a lot of changes in restaurants. The next 16 weeks, everyone wants to get out. They got vaccinated. They want to get out. They want to celebrate. They want to travel. So we're gonna make it through these next 16 weeks. But trust me, I'm already thinking. We can talk about it later in the seminar. But I'm already trying to figure out ways what our business looks like 5-10 years down the road, and trying to control that staffing labor piece. And I hate to have to do that, but the reality is we have to do that right now.
Very interesting, Krista. How about you? What are you seeing trends moving forward for your business model? And
so our biggest trend, obviously, I mentioned before how I had expanded, right? So instead of just focusing on that athlete, I'm making my market larger. But also, I think it's important. It's amazing because technology does change everything. And right now, I'm not sure how many of you rely on Facebook ads and things like that, but with the new iOS 14 Apple update, Facebook has been my main source of advertising. Typically with those new updates, you can't retarget because people opt out. So it's this huge thing in the industry right now. Facebook is where I typically was able to communicate with my customers. This is changing everything the past few months and prepping my business for the Apple rollout, and my marketing people, what they've had to invest in their time and do. So now we are having to expand in YouTube ads and Pinterest ads and Snapchat ads, right? Because you can't rely on Facebook ads anymore. And that has been an extremely challenging last few months as we're trial and error and learning to advertise on different platforms instead of what we're used to doing. We're relying much more on email. I just had to add this text feature so you can put in your phone number and I'll text you updates and sales, whatever. And then if you enter your phone number, then you get this free, a free year's worth of refills or something for entry. You're just trying new things, but all that costs money. So this year, because I've run such a cash business, and I had that issue last year of being like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I think COVID has changed me into being much more forward in my thinking and not so reliant on all the things that currently work, but to be more forward and say, okay, this may not be it yet. It may not be here yet, but we need to go there because we never know what's going to happen. We need to go several places in our thought process, in our marketing, in our thinking. We can't just rely what's on currently working. We have to expand our knowledge, our footprint, and everything in multiple ways. So for me, COVID has really taught me that you can't ever get comfortable. And just because what you're doing is working now doesn't mean that's the way of the future.
That's fascinating. Justin, so how about you? What are you seeing?
Yeah, the biggest change for us in the service industry, home service industry, is the workforce. Trying to find people to work. And I'm looking at Jason Matchett's question here about taking risk. One of the biggest challenges is now that the workforce is kind of dispersed and now is all coming back. The people that we hire are usually have some sort of background in home construction or HVAC or something that waterproofing or concrete that ties into what we do. My last 3 sales guys, one was a chiropractor. One guy did, apparel printing for marketing, things like that. Our production guys are coming from the restaurant industry. Sorry, Tony. But what that also does is it creates a monster challenge in both our onboarding and how we train people. And it does make us more risk adverse because I'm sending people into an attic, right? It's not a safe place to be if you're not used to being in an attic. So, it used to be we'd throw somebody in an attic, I go up in that attic and do this. Well, they knew how to walk in an attic properly and they knew how to use a saw without hurting themselves. And they knew, all these things. Now it's kind of like, I always tell people, you can't tell them now anymore, hey, go put your shoes on. You have to say, go put your socks on first, right one on the right sock, left one on the left, right? And then put your and then don't forget to tie your shoes, right? It's to me, I think that'll be the biggest change in the home services industry, is just the workforce and the things that we're going to have to do as a company to make our quality stand up high still on the training side of things, I would think.
Interesting. So I'm thinking, and we're getting kind of close on time, and thank you for the couple of questions. I'll get those in a second, but I'm wrote a note here. I said how to think into the future. That may very well be the next session that 4 of us end up doing, right?
Sure.
Tony, to your point, I think we could have a whole nother hour or 2 long discussion about, like, how do you think about those trends? Like Krista, you were mentioning, it's like, well, there's stuff out there that may or may not be relevant. You're going to kind of have to find time to evaluate some of it, right? And so I'm wondering if, it's shifting how you think as an owner, as the person managing the company, doesn't incorporate spending time on things that you maybe didn't have to spend time on or didn't think you had to spend time on in the past, that maybe we thought of as a more larger company type of activity. That seems that those activities become important even farther down the quote unquote food chain, if you will. So that might very well be an interesting session that we have at some point. But couple of questions from the audience I definitely want to get to. First off, Sharon, I love yours. Do any of you offer online classes or courses? Sounds like these people are dying to learn more from you. Maybe that's something we'll talk about.
I get people asking, I'll sit down with anyone and
Yeah.
talk to them about, what I do in my business and how, I try to forecast. So if anyone wants to, reach out to me at the restaurant, I'll take some time. I talked to a young man the other day who just started his business. So, we're all in this together. I had mentors. I still have mentors that I go to and ask questions. I'm talking to my mentor right now about lease negotiation because I'm getting ready to negotiate one of my leases.
So is that, well, and
I'm the same
actually,
way.
yeah, go ahead, Krista.
I was gonna say I'm the same way, and I think most people, like anybody who reaches out to me, I realize every business is different. So Tony, in his industry, Justin in his industry, if anybody is ever in the, thinking about a product or product-based industry, I talk to people and offer advice constantly. I actually love it. People are my passion. Not sitting here behind my office in my desk running Excel and numbers and balancing books. That's not, I can't stand that. I actually love being able to give back. So if anybody, it says, can we contact the speakers directly? I just clicked on the chat. If anybody thinks I could be of value to them as well in their industry, the answer is yes for me. So.
We will be happy to connect people. Justin,
I'll echo the exact same words. I think that's one of the things that makes Loudoun County unique is that we're all here to help each other out. I met with a new dentist office the other day, and we learn things from people that are just starting their business. Trust me, it's not like we know everything. Half of what we do is figure it out while we're going along. So yeah, if anybody wants to reach out, I'll talk to them. I don't offer any virtual classes. I never thought about that. But it's time to do that, right?
Get the wheels turning there. That's great. Well, and it sounds like would you agree that ability that whether it's a formalized mentorship role, somebody you've known?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know I've experienced this as well. Having access to be able to talk about this stuff with other people, pretty important in your businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, it's lonely at the top, and sometimes you're not sure, and you need someone to bounce a question or an idea off of that you have and get some feedback, some honest feedback. And it's tough sometimes to find people that'll give you honest feedback. And I tell people I spend a lot of time in my truck talking to myself on the way home, and sometimes I pass my house as because I'm not done talking to myself. But yeah, it's tough sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's extremely important. I mean, in my industry, it's kind of rare. I'm always like, why isn't there a product category in Loudoun County? My husband's like, because how many people invent products? And I was like, oh, good point. I guess I would win. but in all seriousness, like I belong to all these groups. I've made some of my bestest friends. Literally, we're BFFs. I've never met them in real life. And we talk every quarter with new ideas. Sometimes over COVID, it would be a lot more often. But people who are in my industry that we've become friends that I met either through an online thing or a networking event for e-commerce people. So I definitely encourage you to find people in your specific industry that you can have these conversations with. And we're all 100% honest and forthright with each other. And I think that's super important to have those few people that you can say, okay, I did this and it really sunk. It was really bad. Or I'm making some money this month. And you can just be honest about your spending or not spending or debts you're taking or not. And then you can talk through it with someone else.
That's very interesting. Having a whether it's a formalized group or a kind of just people, is that Justin, Tony, do you feel like that's important? And Tony, I know you've done some concrete things to try to bring restaurateurs together in Loudoun.
Used to be restaurants are very kind of closed vested and don't want to share things with each other, but COVID has definitely caused us to kind of come together, and try to solve problems as a group. And so we have a group that actually I was able to organize during all this and organize a group of independent Loudoun restaurant owners. And we meet once a month to kind of just see what's going on in their business and just kind of get feedback from each other. Because as Kristen said, we all make mistakes. You're not living as a small business owner until you make mistakes. And and if I can learn from someone else's mistake, or if I can teach someone that mistake I made, then we're growing all as a group. And so there's no more closed vested, at least in the 14 or 15 people that come to our meetings, we're all sharing, honesty. And that's important. That's the one thing I've learned. One of the big things I've learned is sharing, because all of us have similar problems. And if we can help each other solve, then, all ships rise with the tide.
And Justin, you have similar experience? Are there
I mean,
groups that you?
So what's interesting is everything that Tony and Krista were just talking about is reaching out to people within your own industry, and we're in the home performance industry, and we're like, everybody's like, what the hell's that, right? As far as I know of, there's only about 2 others that are in our area that do what we do, but don't be afraid to reach outside of your industry too, because you can learn something from another type of company that does something completely different. I mean, just it's been awesome. It's been great to hear and watch Tony and Krista, because I've learned a couple of things today just through listening to them. You never know what that person knows, or in the networking world, who they know, because they may be able to introduce you to your next best customer, repeat business or something like this. Krista, if you don't have a connection to Virginia Tech baseball, let me know.
Yes, let's do it. Come on.
1-to-1.
There you go.
Let's do a 1-to-1.
Yeah, everybody on plays baseball has stinky cleats. I got you. Let's go.
Yep.
So let's start to wrap up a little bit. Justin, we'll begin with any final thoughts that you'd like to leave folks with, or lessons specific that you want. I mean, thank you all for sharing so much, but what are your final thoughts on?
The same thing I said earlier. Don't ever stop. Don't ever give up, and just stay the course. I mean, just don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit.
Excellent. Krista, how about you? Final thoughts?
My whole thing is mindset. And just because you may have a bad day, you can shut that laptop down, go to the next day, go to sleep, wake up the next day like it's a new day. But so many people say to me, oh my gosh, you're always so positive. How do you always? And I'm like, no, I'm not. You don't know what's going on inside my head. Yeah. I have to create that on days when I don't feel it, when I don't feel awesome, or my business is amazing, or everything's going well. When I have terrible days, which I do, and I'm solving problems and I'm making mistakes, I still have to make my brain believe that I can do this and I can keep going. And it's all about shifting your mindset instead of, oh, blah, 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 to, okay, let's go. Let's be a rock star. Let's make things happen. How do I do that? And I am a huge believer, just like last year, and I will keep saying this, like when COVID hit, I used my gratefulness. I am so grateful I don't have employees to lay off. I am so grateful I'm not a restaurant right now who literally is shut down with no end in sight. And I use that to give back to restaurants. Let me make sure I'm ordering. Let me give back to these small businesses that are hurting. Even though I was hurting as well, my gratefulness was the fact that I wasn't hurting as much. And that really helped get me through. So those 2 things, being thankful for what you have and a positive mindset, are super important if you're in this business.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Tony. Well, we started with you and we're going to wrap up with you. So final thoughts from you, sir. You're muted. Which, by the way, is the phrase of the last 13 months. You're on mute, right? That's
yes. Well, thank you for letting me come on and tell a little bit of my story. And it's about passion, and it's always been about passion. It's not about the money. And I tell people that want to get into their own business or have an idea, if you're not passionate about it, if you don't think about it incessantly, then don't do it. But don't do it. I've had several people call me and say, hey, my job now currently pays me $200,000 a year. How do I open a business and make that much money the first year? Don't plan on making $200,000 a year. So follow your passion, whatever that passion is. Just don't give up, and don't chase the money. The money will come. The success will come if you're passionate, and it's all about passion. So thank you.
excellent. Well, thank you, all 3 of you. I very much appreciate you being here. I learned some things today. I think we have some things to follow up on, maybe for some future conversations that I'm excited about. Thank you, all of you attendees, for joining us for this. This is the last session for today of the mini conference, but the conference space will be open until about 1 o'clock for you to bounce around and meet some people and maybe make some connections like Krista and Justin did about how to work together and do some stuff. So please take full advantage of that. Would like to remind you that the Small Business Development Center here is here to help you. LoudounSBDC.com if you're interested, if you're starting a business. We've got programming and classes and things that can help you figure out how to take less risk and move forward. And if you're an existing business, we would very much like to talk to you and be one of those spaces that you come to where you can talk about stuff and just walk through things even when you don't have any idea what to do. So I'm glad that got shared today, because that is certainly an experience that a lot of our clients have. And yet they don't give up and they continue pressing forward. So thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. Again, we'll post when we have a replay of this, we will post that, and you can come back and get re-inspired when you're having a bad day. So thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your Monday.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Justin.